She spent 10 years behind bars. What she says now will shock you. Don't miss out on more true crime stories. Hit subscribe, like, share, and join the conversation in the comments. In early January 2019, a significant moment in the fight for justice unfolded at a Tennessee courthouse. Cyntoia Brown, now 31, stepped out of prison after serving nearly 15 years for a crime she committed at just 16 years old. Her release was not simply an end, but a revelatory beginning. As she faced the cameras, the world listened intently. "I never understood how much pain I was carrying for so long," she said, her voice trembling but strong. One phrase would echo in the mind of viewers: "I was a victim, not a criminal." Seconds later, as her words settled, her story began to unravel. Dark secrets from Cyntoia's past emerged, shedding light on the shocking circumstances surrounding her case. How did a frightened teenager, initially perceived as a criminal, become a symbol of resilience and change? Gripped by the cliffhanger of her life, viewers were left questioning the very fabric of justice in America. To understand Cyntoia's tumultuous journey, we must go back to her early life, before the arrest, before the conviction, and before she became a name in the fight for prison reform. Cyntoia Brown's early life was marred by chaos and instability. Growing up in the outskirts of Nashville, she was raised by a mother battling substance addiction, with little support or guidance. Her childhood was fraught with neglect, leaving Cyntoia vulnerable and alone. At only 16, she began to seek love and comfort in all the wrong places. Misguided relationships led her down a dark path, eventually drawing her into the world of sex work, an avenue she thought might provide her with the solace that her home life had failed to offer. On August 6, 2004, everything changed. A 43-year-old man named John Paul Chapman picked up Cyntoia for sex. What was supposed to be a simple transaction turned deadly when she found herself feeling threatened. Desperate to escape what she believed to be a dangerous situation, Cyntoia shot Chapman with a firearm that had belonged to her then-boyfriend, a man who had previously exploited her trust. The act was one of survival, yet it led to her arrest and eventual conviction for first-degree murder. As the legal process began, Cyntoia's story took hold of the public's imagination. It also unveiled the overwhelming gap between society's perception of young girls in her situation and the grim realities they faced. Instead of sympathy, she was met with harsh judgment, sentenced to life in prison for defending herself. During her trial, testimonies emerged, revealing not just the facts surrounding the night of the murder, but the emotional trauma that Cyntoia had endured. What followed in those walls was a grueling 15-year battle. Cyntoia initially struggled to adapt to prison life, facing the harsh realities of the system: overcrowded cells, minimal rehabilitation, and the constant threat of violence. Yet, within this turmoil, she also found strength. Cyntoia dedicated herself to education, earning her GED and participating in programs that would help her understand both her past and the complexities of the justice system. Through letters, she began to connect with advocates, sharing her story and raising awareness about the struggles faced by incarcerated youth. As Cyntoia fought for her freedom, support for her grew. Advocates, celebrities, and everyday people rallied behind her. The hashtag #FreeCyntoia began trending, capturing the attention of lawmakers and the public alike. Those once blind to her plight began to pay attention, and the movement to recognize her as a victim, rather than a criminal, gained momentum. But just as hope began to bloom, another shocking twist emerged. With her hearing approaching for a potential release, whispers of uncertainty loomed. How much of her story would be revealed? Would she finally gain the justice she sought for so long, or would her fight be in vain? As Cyntoia's release approached in late 2018, the anticipation was palpable. Her case had become a focal point in discussions about prison reform, self-defense, and the treatment of women behind bars. However, as Cyntoia prepared to step into the outside world, profound anxiety lingered. Was I ready to face society again? She pondered, the weight of nearly 15 years behind bars heavy on her shoulders. Tension escalated as the parole board's decision loomed. Advocates for Cyntoia worked tirelessly, emphasizing her transformation and the need for reform within the justice system. Yet skeptics questioned whether she deserved another chance. Would the emotional scars of her past overshadow her future? On January 7, 2019, the moment arrived. The courtroom was filled with supporters holding their breath, the air thick with anticipation. As the judge announced the decision, Cyntoia's heart raced. She was granted clemency, the cheers from her supporters echoing in the recesses of the courtroom. The moment marked not just her freedom but a monumental shift in the narrative surrounding incarcerated women and self-defense claims. Stepping out of prison, Cyntoia was welcomed by friends and advocates, the weight of the world seeming to lift as she breathed fresh air for the first time in over a decade. Yet her journey was far from over. Facing the harsh realities of transitioning into the outside world after years of institutionalization posed its own set of challenges. The mental and emotional toll of her past would follow her. Adapting to a society that often labeled her as a criminal would be daunting. In her first public statements post-release, Cyntoia spoke passionately about her experience and the necessity of reform within the justice system. "I want to fight for those still trapped behind bars," she declared. "We have to change the way we view young women in the system." As she shared her insights, it became clear that her story resonated beyond her individual experience. She became a beacon of hope for many, using her platform to advocate for change. But just as she began to find her footing, a new challenge presented itself. Would the world accept her as an advocate, or would lingering skepticism overshadow her newfound purpose? The cliffhanger remained. Cyntoia had found her voice, but could it create real change in a broken system?